Smite World Championship 2017 placement round. So, this is our World predictions, guys. Of course, at World, there's going to be 10 teams. 4 from North America, 2 from Europe, 1 from Brazil, 1 from Latin America, 1 from China, and 1 from Australia will be your 10 teams here. Of course, the reason why North America has 4 teams and Europe has 2 teams is because North America did better at Super Regionals, getting in 2 additional teams for them, which is why it's 4-2 for North America to Europe. Now, at Worlds, we're going to have our first round, which is going to be these placement rounds, which are best of ones. These are strictly every team is going to be playing in these except for Eager and Energy, who have already qualified into the quarterfinals. So they will not have to play in this placement round stage. Okay, so first up, our first match will be Sora versus INTZ. INTZ is probably the best team outside of North America and Europe, but they're up against Sora, arguably the strongest team in this bracket, which makes it hard for them, and I think that's kind of unfortunate. I think maybe if they were against somebody else, it would be a closer game, but because it's against Sora, I think that this is going to be pretty straightforward. 1-0. I should probably make this red, would be so much better. 2-0. So Sora will advance for match 1, which means our match 1 winner, this will be Sora. Boom. Match 1 winner. Sora will move on to there. Boom. Next up, we have Luminosity versus Harbin. That is the Chinese team. In the past, China has not been the strongest region. Our strongest that we've basically seen come out has been INTZ in years past. So I don't expect them to do anything too crazy. Obviously, their meta is a lot different than ours, but I can't imagine Luminosity having too hard of a time getting through this stage. And I'm giving Luminosity a 1-0 over our friends there. Bada bing, bada boom. They will be the match 2 winners, which is awesome because that means we're going to have Sora versus Luminosity in the Game 5 matchup, which is going to be crazy to think about, dude. They had to play each other previously, right? But, like, world stage, Sora, Andy, the one who left and picked up a new team. Barracuda, Jeff Hindler, the team that stayed. Did Andy make the right decision? Like, it's going to be so good, man. This match is going to be so good. Reminder, these are all best of ones. These are all best of ones in this bracket, as they will be there as well. These are all going to be best of 1 games. Allegiance versus Leached? I think it's called Leached. This is the Latin American team, I believe. INTZ, the Brazilian team, if I recall correctly. This being the Latin American team. They beat the other team that has gone to Worlds twice now. I actually don't remember their name off the top of my head. But they ended up winning their match against the team that has made Worlds twice from that region. And I can't recall the name. Maybe somebody in chat remembers which team that was. But I can't imagine Allegiance having any troubles here. Should be a pretty easy 1-0, which has Allegiance going through to match 6. My writing skills are so good. Allege. Isurus Gaming. That's who they beat. Leached beat Isurus Gaming to come to Worlds over Isurus Gaming, who's made it 2 years in a row. Thank you for that. That's what it was. Match 4 in our last of the initial matches. Pandemonium versus Obey. Pandemonium being your Australian team coming this year from the the Oceania region. They were the Worlds qualifier. I don't believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe this is the same Pandemonium team that was there, that we had competing in that region last year. I think it's almost an entirely different team. But I'll need to catch up. I'll need to catch up on that exactly to remember. But I feel like it was mostly a different team than what was originally last year. One of the team was. I forget who it was. Somebody was a different team. Maybe it was Panda, maybe it wasn't. Regardless, Pandemonium should not win this. Obey should come out 1-0. I don't expect any of the European or North American teams to drop anything in this starting matchup. I don't expect that to go like that any crazy. So that brings us over here. Now we have the match 6 winner. No. Match 4 winner, which is going to be Obey. Here. Obey. Okay. Now this is going to be the match 1 loser. This is the knockout round. Match 1 loser. So this is going to be, oh God. INTZ, right? So this is the match 1 loser. INTZ over here. Match 2 loser versus Harbin. And then over here will be Leech versus Pandemonium. Interrupt me if I'm doing this bracket wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm following this correctly. Versus Panda. Okay. So, back over to our Group 5 stage. Or Match 5, I should say. Still best of ones. These are all best of ones on this page. We have Sora versus Luminosity. This game's going to be nuts. Definitely the best set out of these first 6 matches. Sora versus Luminosity. Going to be crazy. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, let's talk about the individual matchup. Let's just talk about the matchups. ADC-wise, Luminosity has it covered. Barracuda only really matched right now in North America by Zatman in terms of that carry potential. Supports, pretty even. Jeff Hindla versus Jigs is going to be pretty even. Different styles. I would give the favor slightly in favor of Jigs right now. Mid matchups is going to be a big deal. We saw Xeno struggle at the last LAN, while Snoopy seemingly was fine. So they definitely need Xenotronics to show up from Luminosity. Solo lane is going to be a really big deal. Baskin having great lands. Scary D having a couple early teleports. A couple early teleports. You know, it happens to everybody. Sometimes you just early teleport and it just happens, and don't be embarrassed about it. But a couple early teleports, which was pretty funny. I don't imagine that'll happen again, so I think he'll be fine in that regard. But other than that, he did fine. And then in the jungle, Mast versus Andy. I think is going to be, the pace of that's going to be dependent on Andy. If Andy shows up to play, which he does most of the time, then he's got it. But if Andy gets a little bit nervous, whatever it may be, I think Mass has the confidence to kind of just take it through, especially if Mass gets going early. If Mass gets an early lead, he often can carry through. If he gets behind early, he starts to play a lot more passive and he kind of loses his play style. So I do think he needs it early. Should be a crazy match, but I've got it 1-0 the way of Sora. But that match should be sweet. Should be sweet. Match 6, we've got Allegiance versus Obey. This will be a very interesting matchup for 2 reasons. And honestly, I think this one can be crazy as well. Out of the top 4 teams, right? The top 4 teams are Eager, Soar, Obey, and Energy, okay? Those are the top 4 teams from Super Regionals that got through. Allegiance has not dropped a game yet with their new roster. But they have not played any of the top 4 teams because the top 4 teams never obviously went to that bottom wild card stage. And so we haven't seen them play against a top 4 team. But I also think that out of the top 4 teams, Obey is probably the worst out of the top 4. So I think that that match is going to be crazy. Oh my goodness, that match is going to be nuts. That'll really show kind of where both those teams are. I think it's going to be a barn burner. But if one team stomps the other, it could really show how strong that particular team is coming up for the rest of the matches. I'm going to give it to Allegiance because NA over Europe, I think we've shown that NA right now has the dominant meta because they've got 4 teams in Worlds and Europe has 2. So as far as the generic meta go, I think that North America has it. And I think that ALG will be fine carrying over the North American meta into that matchup. Moving over into the knockout stages here, INTZ versus Harbin. I expect INTZ to take that. I do think they're the best team out of the non-North American European region. And bottom versus Leech Day and Panda. I do expect Panda to take it over that. I think the Australian meta is a lot closer to the North American European meta than it is, than we have Latin America, Brazil necessarily looking at that. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, guys, for this initial mashup. Sora over INTZ, Luminosity over Harbin, Allegiant over Liche, Obey over Pandemonium for the first 4. Moving on, we've got Sora over Luminosity and Allegiance over Obey. And in our knockout phase, we've got INTZ over Harbin and Panda over Leech. So moving on to the next one. Boom. Okay, what does this mean? Now this is where we get confusing. Match 7 winner goes here. Who is our match 7 winner? Match 7 winner. Wait, real? Oh yeah, match 7 winner. So match 7 winner. INTZ. So this is INTZ, I guess. Is that right? Does that seem right? It's ready. Oh no. We'll play it by ear. For right now, we're playing it by ear. So this will be INTZ here. Okay. Then we have the match 6 winner and match 5 loser. Match 6 winner is going to be Allegiance. So this will be Allegiance versus Luminosity. ALG versus Luminosity. Okay, this is looking correct because they're the first place, so they get to go against the other regions. Perfect. Then we have Energy versus match 8 winner, which is going to be Panda. Alright, so we get them versus Panda. Oh yeah, we're doing this right here, right now. Panda, boom. Match 6 loser, match 5 winner. 6 loser, 5 winner. Soar versus Obey. So then down here we have Soar versus Obey. Boom! And the brackets are good. Okay, here we go. Onward to the quarterfinals. So now at this point, we have 2 teams eliminated. We'll have Leech eliminated and our Harbin Chinese team eliminated. Other than that, all 8 teams moving on to the quarterfinals, or 6 teams, I should say, meeting up with Eager and Energy, who are default qualified for the quarterfinals by placing first in their respected regions out of Super Regionals. Okay? Eager versus INTZ. These will all be best of 3s from now on. They are no longer best of 1s until you get to the semifinals/finals, in which case they become best of 5. Eager over INTZ. I think this will be pretty straightforward. Eager 2-0 over INTZ. So we will have Eager. Moving on to the semifinals. Similarly, I think Energy... Oh gosh, my face is in the way now. No, wait for it. Boom, I'm right in the middle of your screen. Similarly, we will have Energy versus Panda. Energy 2-0 over Panda. I think they will have a pretty free ride to the semifinals. I don't think either Energy or Eager will have any problems getting themselves into the semifinals of Worlds. Now, this is where it gets down to the big money, big prizes, no whammies. You know what I'm saying? This is where it all comes down to it. ALG versus Luminosity. Down here in this bottom bracket, and Obey versus Soar. Both of these games will be crazy and determine who go to the semifinals. Obey versus Soar. I think Soar is probably the best North American team outside of Eager right now. I mean, that's kind of straightforward. That's literally what the seeding would tell you, considering they're second seeded out of North America. But Obey was also second seeded out of Europe. So it's interesting that they end up in that same bracket together. But I do think the North American meta is stronger than the European meta, and I will give that to Soar. I don't think it'll be easy, though. I give it 2-1 for Soar over Obey, giving us Energy versus Soar in the semifinals on the right side of our bracket. Which will mean that Energy will be the only European team left once Obey is gone. There's only 2 European teams, of course. Man, ALG versus Luminosity will be so crazy. It's going to be very dependent on a couple things. I think ALG has a consistent thing going for them, in that they're kind of going to play at X skill level, if that makes sense. They're going to play X. That's their game, and they're going to play it. So in order for Luminosity to win, they're going to have to play their game at a higher value than X, because ALG is going to show up consistent. They're going to do what they're going to do. And you know what I'm saying? So if you can play better than they're playing, then you can win. But you can't expect them to falter so you can win. So Luminosity needs to be putting pressure on Cyclone Spin. They can't let him get big. They need Barracuda to get big themselves. And they need Xeno and they need Mass to show up. They need both of them synergizing. They need Barracuda just doing whatever Barracuda does. And they need to prevent Cyclone from getting big. Either way, it's going to be a tough order for either team. And I think it's going to be 2-1. Extremely close. I think you could probably put this one either way. I think 2-1 either way would be reasonable for this, but I'll give it 51% to 49% ALG over Luminosity. ALG moving on to the semifinals, as well as being the only wild card team making it to the semifinals, it seems, with Luminosity and all the rest getting knocked out. So that brings us to the semifinals. We have a North American semifinals. On the left, we've got Europe versus North America on the right-hand side. I think this is going to be... I don't know. This might be... These semifinals might actually be less close than the quarterfinals. I think Eager takes the semifinals over ALG 3-1 and moves on towards the finals. Team name. The team name is Eager. I think Eager takes that 3-1. With the way Eager's been playing, they will have a... I mean, with the way they've been playing, with the strategies they've been using, with the metas they've been making, assuming they don't slow down, they haven't slowed down their practice, they haven't slowed down making new metas, trying new things, playing their own style, I think that they are one of definitely the teams to beat at this LAN, and especially because they won't have anybody really against them until the semifinals. That's a lot of momentum to just kind of stomp on some INTZ to get yourself into the semis. So you got to be feeling pretty good about that. But at the same time, they won't have played any, like, really hard competition up till that point. So maybe they'll be a little bit too lax, having just played INTZ, allowing ALG to sneak in an early win. An early win could get some momentum going. You never know, but I do think Eager is the stronger team there, 3-1. On the right side of the bracket, we have Energy versus Soar. I honestly think that ALG would have been a better matchup against Energy than Soar is, because I think ALG having early pressure and playing aggressive could actually do wonders against Energy. I think Energy's early game is not particularly OP. I think that what makes them so strong is their smarts and their wits and their ability to get to team fights and play team fights correctly and objectives correctly. But I actually think Soar is going to have a harder time with Energy because of that. Soar kind of plays that same more style where they play a little bit more towards the team fight stage. Both extremely reliant on their junglers. But I think Energy is going to be able to outperform them in that team fight stage comparatively. And I give this to Energy 3-1 over Soar. NRG. Under this situation, we will have an Eager versus Energy finals. North America versus Europe. That is both of the #1 seeds going to the finals. And this should be an absolute barn burner. We will see the clash of the metas come together. But I do think... All right, let's talk about these individual matchups. Let's talk about these matchups. Support-wise, Aurora versus Raffer. Okay? Two supports that want to be in your face, doing damage, doing CC, interrupting you. Pretty mirrored matchup right there. Zapman versus Emilito. I give the advantage to Zapman. Zap loves being on the stage more than any other person, and we know that on stage he plays better. He's a Lanimal, if you will, and I expect him to, that aggressive style, to put some pressure on Emilito. Mid lanes, Best versus Yaman. I expect Yaman to come out on top of that matchup. I think that Yaman is arguably the best player in the world. I think he has been since last Worlds. And his consistency is going to be very important for Energy, especially by not giving Best Raw. I think that you severely hinder a lot of the Eager strats. In the jungle, DJ Pernigus versus Adapting. You give it to Energy, you give it to Adapting. The Adapting Yaman combo is going to be what they need to shut down on Eager. Eager needs to shut down the Yaman Adapting combo. Don't let them feed off each other. They get each other real big in the mid lane. If Pernicus and Best cannot die in that mid lane, let Zapman get big, let Divios get big. That way they can get to a team fight stage like that. I think they're going to be better off. Don't worry about fighting against Adapting and Yemen. I don't think that's a winning matchup. Finally, Divios versus Dimi over in the solo lane. I think that favors Divios. Divi a lot more aggressive than Dimi. I will say that the one thing I'd be worried about is Divios' God pool. Sometimes he likes to pull out some janky stuff, and janky doesn't always work, but I think if he stays more meta, that he'll outplay Dimi on a basic skill level right now. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be 3-2 Eager over Energy. That we will have a North American winner of Worlds again. And I think that it's going to be damn close. And I think that on the way there is a lot of potential for upsets. Once you get into this...
Yo, what's up, Incon? I think that Eager will win against NRG.
I mean, that's what I just said.
Just saying, but if
I think they
NRG
will win.
wins
I
2
agree,
years
but
in
barely.
a row, I will
There's a
quit
lot of
but love
upsets that can
watching
happen.
you.
Energy versus Sora. Anything could happen. Eager versus ALG. ALG Luminosity. I mean, Obey versus Sora down here even. This could be mixed up. I think the only things that are pretty set in stone is this quarterfinals match and this quarterfinals match. Looking back on our placements, Match 5 could definitely be mixed up here. If Luminosity wins this over Sora, then that means it's going to be Sora versus ALG, in which case that's totally different. If Obey were to be ALG, that would be totally different. I mean, there's a lot of options for things to get mixed up and crazy here. But I think that this is the most likely situation of what will happen. It should be a fantastic world no matter what, though. It's the final countdown.